Will Trump finally hit out the Kremlin for the attack on Poland, and will the US recognize Russia as a terrorist state? This and other topics we will discuss right now. My name is Iryna Uslova, and today with us is Yuri Rashkin, host of YouTube channel Rashkin Report and Rashkin Report in English, and our good friend. Yuri, hello, glad to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you, Iryna, as well.
Thank you. Kyiv residents can finally sleep. President Zelensky jokingly compares Keith Kellogg to air defense. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted that when the U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg is in Kyiv, Russian forces do not carry out major attacks. Yuri, is Putin really afraid and not taking risks when it comes to American officials in Ukraine?
That seems to be the last red line that is remaining, perhaps, is that because we see that Putin is now feeling pretty fearless about having his drones fly on territory of a NATO country. But when it comes to Kellogg, it seems like this theater, this production, which really is more about smokescreen and a photo opportunity for the administration rather than actually providing aid for Ukraine, still this, PR machine or something is still respected enough, perhaps for, so it would be better picture. So for quality of photograph, that General Kellogg is perhaps some of the most effective air defense that there is, because he does seem to push off Putin's attacks. It is remarkable that we went from a kind of a joke to an acknowledged fact that when Kellogg is in Kiev, people can sleep well. The whole city is like sleeping better, I understand, when Kellogg is in town. And so there's all sorts of jokes about him getting an apartment and everything else. But it's also kind of like, what's the logic there? And the only thing I can think of is that it makes for a better picture, because the whole Kellogg diplomacy approach is about creating a better picture.
But why is Putin so scared? Because he thinks about consequences, or why?
I think that if he ruins the picture, then it doesn't look like Putin is serious about the peace process. We all know that Putin is not interested in a peace process to begin with. He wants the same things he wanted when he started this war, but now he is looking at what he can do so that the American president can continue to consider himself, so to say, well-dressed and covered, when in reality it appears more and more that the emperor is naked. Because when we have Poland saying that we've been attacked and our naked emperor says, no, I think that was a mistake, and Poland says, I don't think so, we're seeing a very big chasm opening up in, if schism perhaps, in NATO, and how allies are looking at the function of the organization, because there still is a need for collective defense system and defense organization, but perhaps NATO as it currently exists isn't the button that if you press, help will come immediately. And that's what Poland is pointing out so clearly, that the United States is not fulfilling its obligations in accordance to, right now we're just Poland didn't invoke that Article 5, they only invoked Article 4, but I think that perhaps because they know that if they invoke Article 5, nothing will happen. And so rather than not go there and not experiment, they would rather just, let's go with Article 4 and get together and see what can be done. But Kellogg is part of the smokescreen where Trump can show to his, to electorate in general, that he's trying to do something. It's important to understand that Trump's base does not really hold him responsible for the fact that he said that he will end the war in 24 hours and he failed to do so. Because as far as his base is concerned, well, Trump isn't president of Russia. He's not president of Ukraine. He can't do it. He can try. He tried. Well, I guess he was wrong about that. But that's okay. That's not his fault, which is why when people look at the Epstein case, And whether Trump releases documents or not, this is directly something that can be attributed as his responsibility, unlike war in Ukraine. So his electorate wants to see that there's peace efforts being made, that we're trying. And for this, we're trying, Kellogg plays a very valuable role. But in the end, are there sanctions? No. Is there new aid? No. What are we talking about? We're talking about joint drone production? Is that where we are? Ukraine has one thing that's working, and the United States wants to put its hands on it. This is such economic expansion, imperialism, just represented in this kind of approach where we're going to see what good things you have and try to control them, rather than talk about all the military aid that the United States is supposed to have been, under the past administration, thought it made sense to provide, and under this administration can't even sell it. We're not in this war, we're just profiteering from this war. Well, are we? Because it doesn't even seem like we're doing that very effectively. So Kellogg, I think, represents here some beautiful aspirations and really more of a fig leaf that's covering up this naked emperor.
Today, talking with Fox News correspondents, told that he can attack Putin with strong blow and patience running out very quickly. Trump was asked whether his patience with Russian President Vladimir Putin is running out. Yeah, it's sort of running out and running out fast, but it does take two to tango. It's amazing. When Putin wants to do it, Zelensky didn't. When Zelensky wanted to do it, Putin didn't, Trump said. I'd be hitting very hard on with sanctions to banks and having to do it to oil and tariffs. But I've already done it. I've done a lot, Trump noted, and mentioned about that fact that he had imposed 50% tariffs against India, which was Russia's biggest customer. Do you believe that Trump really can hit Russia and Putin with big, strong blow? Because I don't believe telling the truth.
Well, I don't know about blow, but I think that when we know, I guess, from Donald Trump that he is no longer wants to be friends with somebody and throws them out of his mansion, it's because they stole one of his massage therapists. And that's red line for Donald Trump. So as long as Putin hasn't done that, I guess he's okay. I think that Trump has an endless amount of patience when it comes to Putin. This is where I start to wonder if, as far as Ukraine policy is concerned, if we are truly better off with Trump than we would be with Vance, because Vance is such under influence of people and who are so anti-Ukraine, and he's been saying things that have been anti-Ukraine, and this is he's not like a nice guy here, but he doesn't seem to have this dependency, almost chemical dependency, that Donald Trump seems to have on Vladimir Putin. And what that does, and this is, I think, fundamental problem for Donald Trump and for America, and is that this approach projects weakness. It projects no power, it projects no influence, it projects petulance, and it projects the weakness that is symbolic of everything that this administration tries to do, because it tries to apply strength, but it comes across as weak because it is not capable of fulfilling its promises, and certainly not in any way that anybody is willing to accept. And so with this message, I feel that Putin is showing, numbers are showing, news speaks for itself. When we see that number of drones attacking Ukraine is, in hundreds, and Donald Trump apparently is okay. If Donald Trump is conversely rolling out red carpet for Vladimir Putin, everything is okay. If Trump is willing to take sanctions and welcome Lukashenko back into the family of civilized nations, more or less, that seems like where the train is headed at the moment, then I guess everything must be okay. So this is where we see that the world, Pax Americana, is effectively being dismantled. And to what extent there is anybody inside the United States that really cares about this, we're yet to find out, because it seems like Americans at the moment are concerned, a lot of them are, with other things.
It's a very strange case with Lukashenko, and with our political experts, we think that it's like a breach to Putin, and in future Trump can not impose sanctions, but make sanctions lighter for Russian Federation after this case, or no?
Absolutely. This is where it's headed. And I see that Lukashenko, similarly, I feel to Trump, is not looking at people who live in their country, citizens, voters, as those that are in charge, active or not active stockholders of this corporation named country and state, but instead they look at them as more of a imperial, they're subjects, and so it's almost like Lukashenko needs to release 1,000 kilos of hostages, so that sanctions would be taken off of them. Okay, so let's see, we will need to take some big ones because we want to, who cares? Because Lukashenko has an unlimited supply of the whole country is his hostages. So he can release people from Belarus a few at a time for as long as he needs to. And I think it's just kind of humorous when Donald Trump sends him his cufflinks with the image of White House on them, as if this is, how white men were whoever were buying island of Manhattan from Native Americans for a few glass beads. It's almost like, here's something off the boss's table that you'll find a nice souvenir, and it's ridiculous. We're watching this world that really reminds more, I think, of 19th century than it does of 21st or even 20th. And of course, there's no question that when Trump legitimizes Lukashenko, he legitimizes Putin. Mm-hmm. There is no disconnect between Lukashenko and Putin, and if you're helping Lukashenko, you're helping Putin, and if you're helping Putin, you're helping Lukashenko. So I think that Trump not knowing this would be ridiculous. So clearly he's trying to do something nice for Vlad Putin. On the other hand, we see Poland, which is in a desperate situation right now, and those drones were flying in from Belarus. So you would think that as a NATO ally, United States would not consider this to be the best time to be so friendly with Belarus. I mean, I'm just saying, but it seems like it's not a problem. Timing is not an issue because Donald Trump acknowledges things that Donald Trump wants to acknowledge. If he doesn't want to acknowledge it, he doesn't. There's a problem with this because there's a certain amount of respect that he loses from others, like most of it. But when he doesn't even see that and everything is great with him, listen to him speak. He says that America is in a great place now, that a year ago the country was dying, but now everything's fantastic. Iryna, I live in the United States. I love United States. I'm a citizen of the United States. I mean, I'm a local elected official. And it really hurts me when I talk to people outside of the United States who are now looking at the United States and are saying, I don't want to go there. I'm fine here. Thank you. Wherever they might be. It really bothers me.
And we also noticed that the sanctions against Belarus were lifted on the anniversary of the September 11 terrorist attacks.
I don't know that it matters, and I think that's the key. For some reason, I noticed that this year, less than ever, we have paid attention to 9/11. It used to be, there's an interesting kind of an opposite comparison, how certain holidays become celebrations, but certain days stop being acknowledged so much. There's a big history of war parades in Soviet Union, as you know, and many listeners know, where right after World War II, the day of Victory Day was not really celebrated. It was a somber day when veterans got together, had a drink, and were quiet around each other. because they remembered. But as those people have passed on, it became a bigger and bigger celebration of the state. With 9/11, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing a day that was we were honoring first responders. We were honoring New York. We were honoring Boston. We were honoring America. We're just, we really did our best to try to come together after that tragedy, and a reminder of, in a way, I guess, of our failures, because there were things, there are things that changed after 9/11 that forever changed how we fly. Our airports don't look the same. Explaining to young people how things used to be before 9/11, because that's reality of everyday travel pretty much all over the world now because of 9/11. And yet, when it comes to the day of 9/11, 2025, we see that this is really getting to be a smaller and smaller observance in the United States. And I think it's because it reminds of our failures. It was a day of a complete, we can look at it as there was a lot of strength and human spirit, but this was a day that was also showed that America is vulnerable. And I think that with this administration talking about a vulnerability, showing empathy, anything like that is considered to be a weakness. Weakness is bad. And therefore, certain days that we should remember, that we should acknowledge, we don't so much anymore on at least a federal level. I saw my local state elected officials acknowledging it, recognizing it. Some people have, but it seemed like less of a day than it was before. And so a significance of such a day to say, we're going to take sanctions off of this airline that is representing this terrorist regime of Lukashenko. There's so much that is wrong with this, that to say that any particular day is worse than any other, all of it is really terrible.
Really, the murder of Ukrainian Iryna, the murder of Charlie Kirk, how Americans feel about all this, what's going on? And yes, I understand that Trump can always say that Biden is to blame for everything, but in real?
I think that, yes, in fact, it's actually worse than that, because, when you say that, the Trump likes to blame Joe Biden for everything, after Charlie Kirk was murdered, Donald Trump pretty much immediately went to blaming so-called radical left. And we now see that people on the right and the right blogosphere, where Charlie Kirk was a kind of a mainstay hero, are calling for war. And so the situation is really seems to be kind of the temperature is increasing. And it's a known thing that whenever there's opportunity, our president will say the wrong thing. He will blame somebody when it's not a time to blame. He will accuse. He will try to. It's always about shifting, evading responsibility. Because if we look at things like who was president when Jeffrey Epstein died? Trump. Okay. Who was president when Charlie Kirk was shot? Trump. Okay, so I already am hearing conspiracy theories from people about how this is connected to different people and how so-and-so didn't like him, so-and-so didn't like him. But the situation is getting very dangerous, and I am afraid that it is exactly what Donald Trump was hoping for, as he keeps searching for something that will take the attention off the Epstein case. And especially for his base, because people that have been always against Donald Trump, they're always against Donald Trump. Independents, pretty much a done deal these days. But his base, 90% of them thought that everything was great. 91% of them thinks that everything is great, and say they support him now. So this aggression and this fear-based aggression, suspicion-based aggression, because it was a horrible crime against a right-wing influencer, that was committed is really, I feel, has a potential of take over with Trump's base. Perhaps, it's hard to say. I'm definitely not Trump's base myself. But they seem to be very, very, very upset about the execution of Charlie Kirk. And I think that the situation with Iryna Zuritsky, who was a refugee from Ukraine who was murdered on a light rail train, I'm trying to think, in Portland, I believe, and by a man who, for people who look at the world in a racist way, kind of clearly, it's like it speaks for itself. Well, of course, he was blah, blah, blah. But it's a crime. And a terrible crime that should be investigated, that should have, there should be an investigation. And as we are seeing time and time again, we have a crime being committed, and our president, before anything is known, already issues his judgments and expectations. We saw this when a passenger plane crashed into a military helicopter around February. And Donald Trump immediately said that this was a fault of DEI, so it was either like women or blacks or something, that had to do with it. It's immediately everything. It's not just personal, but it's political to Donald Trump. And so we will see what happens, because I think Zuritsky case is also sad in its politicization, because she had nothing to do with politics. This was, not what at least Charlie Kirk, he was involved in the political process. He put himself out there bravely, and she did not. She was riding on a light rail. But it's also a reminder to Donald Trump and to anybody who is paying attention of the difficult situation that Ukrainians are in the United States these days, where their status is kind of suspended because Trump is trying to figure out how good his relationship is with Putin.
Yes.
Because if he can end the war, then he can send all Ukrainians back to Ukraine. And right now, these people are in kind of a suspended situation, and it's something that also should be brought to the conversation. But instead, we're just going to say this white woman was killed by this African-American man who had mental issues. And let's see, this is just a list of stereotypes that we can play into, including in a big city. So, of course, this is exactly why Donald Trump needs to take National Guard and put it into every big city that's, 9 times out of 10 run by a Democrat, and continue to shift the anger in this country and make us so much more angrier than we ever used to be.
Yes, and it's really very indicative that Trump never mentioned that Iryna Zuritsky was hiding in the U.S. from the Russian aggression, from the war, and that Putin is also partly to blame for her death. And we have 2 minutes. I see another good initiative by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of the U.S. Congress and his Democratic colleagues, Richard Blumenthal and Amy Klobuchar. They have introduced a bill that would recognize Russia as a terrorist state and until it returns all the Ukrainian children it has kidnapped, Vladimir Putin. The American politician Graham called on the world to get their asses up and make this unacceptable. Do you believe that this initiative can become a reality?
No, I think this is a document that's dead on arrival. This is political theater by Lindsey Graham and other senators who are trying to show that while Donald Trump is going to stop any help to Ukraine, there are politicians in the United States who do support Ukraine. I mean, it's nice, but it would be nice if it had some results. But instead, this is Kellogg who is being, a fig leaf. These are senators who are trying to show that United States still has some, smart and sane people. And Lindsey Graham, the John McCain pain of our days. Wow. These people. And then, of course, we have to unfortunately acknowledge that even being pronounced state sponsor of terrorism does not necessarily mean that Russia is going to be in immediate trouble, because there's lots of things that United States Senate passes that don't necessarily lead to most aggressive enforcement, including state sponsor of terrorism of North Korea, which was taken off the list, put back on the list, or Iran. Those regimes continue to exist. So that doesn't mean that this is going to, destroy Russia, which has been living in this kind of an alternate universe for a while now. But it's nice that there's people who feel like a way for them to show that they have dignity is by supporting Ukraine. That's right.
Conversation, for your opinions and for your time. See you next week. Take care, please.
Take care. Thank you.
Yuri, Rashkin, host of YouTube channel Rashkin Report and Rashkin Report in English. My name is Iryna Uslova. Guys, thank you for joining us, watching us. Please leave your comments and subscribe to our YouTube channels. See you.